Thank you. Okay, my name's Catherine Hewlett and I help facilitate these sessions, advocate sessions. My very proud moment on duty to introduce Andree Kenny, who's going to be our advocate speaker, and Dee Davis, who has been the advocate supporting Andree brilliantly, actually. So over to both Andree and Dee to introduce the session.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this evening's session. I'm going to make my introduction of Andree very short and sweet because Andree can do a great job on her own. So we've been working together. Andree helped me with my advocates talk, and this time round I'm helping Andree with hers. And I think we're a good team, and I'm sure Andree is going to do a brilliant job, and it's a really interesting talk that she's got for us this evening. So I'll hand you over to Andree. Andree.
Thank you, Dee, and good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining me for my talk tonight. This evening, I'm going to talk about a calming technique called the Havening technique. But before I start, I'm just going to ask you to maybe have a few things available. Can I have the next slide, please, Dee?
Okay, let me get to the slides. Oh dear, one second.
That's all right.
Hey, let me just go to speaker for Andree. There we are.
Sorry?
I've just made Andree speaker.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so yeah, can I go to the next slide, please, Dee?
Mm-hmm.
Has it moved?
Nope. Hold on. Why is this happening?
Just need to scroll down.
Yeah. There we go.
Excellent. Thank you, Dee.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the talk, we will be having a few interactive exercises. So if you find like stroking your skin is uncomfortable, I would like to ask you now if you could quickly go and get either a soft blanket, a cushion, and later, if you have a cat or a dog, a small one, I'll let you know to get that nearer the meditation. Also, for any of you that have dry hands, I'd advise you get some hand cream as well. Dee, has anybody left or is everybody?
I think somebody just went to get a couple of people have gone to get things, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely fine. I can keep talking while people are there. They're not going to miss out on anything. I would firstly like to say all our advocates' presentations over the years and even this year, they've all been fascinating. And I really, really take something from every presentation. Now, I'm hoping tonight you guys can take something small away from my presentation. And being neurodiverse, I personally find at times I need something to help me remain calm in my moments of stress. So this technique helps calm your mind and your body, and it can be used at any time. Are there still people away, Dee?
I think most people are back. I think most people are back. Yeah, can carry on.
So every now and then throughout the presentation, you will see me doing a series of strokes on my face, arms and shoulders. And this is part of the Havening techniques. Don't worry, near the end of the presentation, I will do a demonstration so that we all can learn. Also, can I please ask that you keep your questions until the end of the presentation? It would really help me. And before we move on to the next slide, I'd like to introduce you to Dee, who's been supporting me tonight and has been a huge help while I've been constructing this presentation. So hi, Dee.
Hi.
So can I have the next slide, please, Dee?
Okay.
So what will we be talking about tonight, or what will I be talking about? I'll be talking about Havening, what it is, who are the creators, the science behind it, how does this therapy work in practice, the uses for it, and a bit of self-care and meditation at the end. Can I have the next slide, please, Dee? So a little about me. I've been coming to the WFDA talks for about 3 years. And I have to say, I feel a lot more comfortable with my neurodivergency as a consequence of being part of this amazing group. My employment history is I was 20 years in the airlines as a flight attendant. I left that, I went into private households, then went into offices doing office management and reception work. But I was only officially diagnosed with dyspraxia and dyslexia less than 2 years ago. There are the advantages of both, but over the years they have posed many challenges as well. So I really wanted something to kind of keep this stress under control. On top of that, I had a real adverse reaction to blood and pain. And doctors and nurses would ask if I was epileptic or diabetic because my reactions were so bad. Now, I knew this fear was getting worse as I got older, but I knew it had taken over my life when I had a really, really bad gardening accident during lockdown. And if it were not for the fact that there was somebody near me at the time, it could be a very different story today. So I had tried to get help with this fear in the past, but havening was the only therapy that I found that had worked for me. And it really stoked a fire inside of me to become a practitioner because I wanted to help others who were in similar situations. Can I have the next slide, please, Dee? Mm-hmm. So we're going to have a little bit of audience participation. I'll ask 2 questions. And for the first question, can you either physically raise your hand or raise your hand in the reactions? So the first question is, how many of you look after your body by doing exercise and eating healthily? Even if you do one or the other, please raise your hand. And by the way, there's no judgment here on anybody. So Dee, how many people?
Hold on a sec. I've counted 4 so far. 5, 6. I think I've got six people.
Nearly the majority, over half anyway. So my second question, I'm going to get Dee to pick someone, please, Dee. So that question is, how many of you look after your mental self-care or look after your mental well-being?
Right. So, okay. Let's see who we've got. John.
So John?
Yeah, John.
Hello.
Hiya, John. How are you?
I'm fine.
I'm just going to ask if you wouldn't mind to tell me, what do you do for your mental self-care?
I try and put limits on family pressures. So I'll go so far and then I'll just stop. I just have to like build a fence around something.
Okay.
I've got a lot of family pressure on at the moment, and sometimes I just have to stop and fence it off because it gets too extreme.
I like that. It's a good way.
I just have to fence it off. I just have to cut it off and go, look, I can't listen anymore to the pressure, and I just have to put like putting a fence around it.
Okay. And do you find that helps you?
Sorry, was that to me or to somebody else?
Sorry, yeah, no, to you, John. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, yeah. What was the question? Sorry, there was an echo.
Yeah, I noticed that. Do you find it helps you when you're in those moments of stress?
Yes, because it's like multiple stress lines coming in at the moment. So it's dealing with a lot of different things all at the same time. So you have to kind of fence things off. But it's the family ones are the most stressful because it's like friendly fire, you know. You could accept it from work colleagues and stuff, but when it's from family, it's just like being stabbed in the back by, pressures. Yeah. Everybody's trying to do the best thing, but it adds just pressure on everybody.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
They're not consciously doing it; they're just unconsciously doing it. You know, they're not doing it on purpose.
And you're trying to kind of almost protect yourself with this.
Yes, I've got to have a cutoff. I have to, in my mind, to say, right, that's it. No more listening to this.
Really good, really good.
What can I do before the next wave?
It's a good way of doing it. Thank you very much for sharing. Really appreciate it. So we are starting, I think, to talk about mental well-being a lot more, which I think is a huge step forward for everyone. And for a lot of us, we don't know how to deal with our mental health because we were never taught how to do it. So I'm going to leave you with just a question to ponder on. So I suppose through the years you've heard about looking after your body. So we look after our bodies, but why don't we look after our brains? Maybe it's just the thing I've just said, we don't know how to. Can I have the next slide, please, Dee?
Before I move on, I noticed Rose has got a hand raised.
Is
I
that
don't
from?
know. I don't know whether that is a question, but
Oh no,
though
that's
I
just me
think.
saying I look after my mental health.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thanks,
I
Rose.
can take it down, no problem.
Okay, thanks. Okay, moving to the next slide then, right, Andree?
Thank you. So
Mhm.
what is this havening? So the word haven actually comes from a safe place or safe haven. And it was deliberately chosen because the neuroscientist who developed it, he wanted the clients to be in a safe place while doing the therapy. And it's a psychosensory therapy. So what is that? It uses sensory stimuli to affect your psychological and emotional well-being. So you may have heard of a few others like EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, and it's tapping, EMDR, which is a lot of rapid eye movement, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. I always find that word, those set of words difficult to get out. So then what actually does havening, what do we use it for? So we can use it for stress, anxiety, phobias, and we can actually use it for everyday like issues to regulate our emotions. And how does it work? So it delinks the negative feelings that arise when a person has like a phobia or past events or incidents. So once you've done the havening, when you actually think of that fear or memory, it's disassociated with that memory. And this calms your mind and body. So it's based on touch. So touch is a primal human need. If you ever think of a mother, she's always soothing her baby, or when you fell as a kid, your mom would rub your leg. And I think the one time that we really struggled not having touch was during the pandemic. We couldn't hug our friends or families, and this had a huge impact on people's well-being and psychological health. And then the final thing is, if you went to therapy, you can actually have a practitioner facilitate you. So you would sit on a chair across from them. The practitioner would sit offset. The practitioner would then ask the client, can they do the havening touch on them? Self-havening you will learn today, and it also has become a lot more popular during the pandemic because you can do it over a Zoom call. And we also have a virtual world, which will be on our next slide. Please, Dee. Ahead of me. So the virtual world was actually created by a lady who'd worked with a lot of neurodivergent people. Now, it's not just for neurodivergent people, but this is why she started creating it, because a lot of us neurodivergent people don't always like looking, you know, on the person in the eye or sitting across from them, like in the therapy. And sometimes we find it hard to imagine things. So with this, you can go in, set up your own avatar and your own virtual world. And then this gives you your safe place to do your session. Can I have the next slide, please, Dee? Mm-hmm. So who created it and why? The creators are Dr. Ronald Rudin, who's a neuroscientist, and Dr. Steve Rudin, who's a dentist. And they noticed over the years that people had big fears of going to doctors and dentists. And they wanted to create something that would help people get over these fears. And they also wanted something that if they did it in a therapy, they would feel a bit more relaxed and safe. So Ronald Rudin on the left-hand side is the neuroscientist, and he read a book, an EFT book by Paul McKenna, who's the celebrity hypnotist. And he asked him to teach him EFT. So Ron did it for 1 year. He had great results with his clients. But because he is a neuroscientist, he wanted to know how the brain worked. So for 10 years, he went away and studied various things. And one of the things he did was he put an EEG cap on people, so electrocephalogram cap, which has electrodes and wires coming out of it, and it measures brain waves. This is kind of how he came up with havening. And a little fact I learned in the last few weeks through a convention was that, do you know, there actually has been no advancement in pharmaceutical treatment for stress and depression in the last 30 years. It's quite a long time. So what they're finding now is people are looking for more evidence-based alternative treatments. Can I have the next slide, please, Dee? So the science and the amygdala, I will explain the amygdala in a moment. So the brain, it's quite an impressive piece of equipment, really. It's kind of the computer to our body and brain. And tonight I'm going to talk about two parts, the thalamus, which is the yellow bit on our diagram here, and that is the filing cabinet for your long and short-term memory, and things come in and out and in and out. Now, one of the places that things can be filed into is the amygdala, and if you look on the diagram, there's a red arrow pointing to this almond-shaped part of the brain. And this part of the brain regulates your emotions and encodes memories. And it's quite remarkable because it really helps us survive. And in days gone by, it would have helped us escape tigers and lions or bears. And today it kind of protects us when we're crossing the road, you know, if a bus is coming, or so that we don't put our hand down on a red hot ring on a cooker top. However, from time to time, it does go into overdrive and it does overcompensate. So just to give you an example, on a daily basis, how many of us find that we can keep looping in cycles of unwanted thoughts? So on top of this, there's another thing that links in with the brain, and it's not in that diagram. And it's a thing called a neuron. I'm sure you've all heard of them. There's 86 million of them in the brain. And what do they actually do? They're information messengers in the brain, and they use electrical and chemical impulses to communicate. So when everything's going well, the neurons are firing and they're flowing nicely and we feel great. So an example of this would be, I want you all now for a second to think of what's your favorite food or what's your favorite drink. Right, imagine taking a drink or a bite of either of these items. Now think of the colors, the smells, the flavors, the textures that go with that. I know I'm thinking of chocolate. I'm thinking, it feels quite good to me. So what happens when a neuron then does the opposite? So when you were younger, you probably had a friend who was a joker and used to hide behind a tree or a wall and jump out, frighten you. Now, can you remember how that feels? I know for me, I kind of get tingles and kind of my hair stand up on the back of my neck. So it's two very different feelings. And what's actually happening there within the brain is the neuron is encoded with AMPA receptors. If you look at the diagram on the right, you'll see little blue things sticking out of it. And I'm going to call them fear receptors. And they appear on the outside of the neuron, and there are fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. And what they actually do is they create all these stress chemicals. And we will have heard of some of these before: adrenaline, cortisol, and there's noradrenaline. So when that fear or anxiety is created, that single neuron in the amygdala is encoded with that memory or event, and you create these receptors on the neuron. So just a quick fact, fear encodes 4 times faster than you can blink. So 4 times faster than you can blink, but yet we spend a lifetime with these fears. And every time you do witness something similar, it might not even be the same thing, your amygdala will scream, "Get me out of here." And any of you that have fears or phobias, you'll certainly know that there's sensations and memories in the brain and body, from your heart rate increasing, your temperature rising, and you can even feel nauseous. And the things that can also trigger this are smell, sound, sensation, taste, or just simply seeing something. So the encoding on the neuron with the fear receptors is bringing back all those sensations and memories that are associated with that event. And then you've seen me do all these strokes. Well, these are the Havening strokes, and they create a thing called delta waves. There's actually 5 delta waves in the brain, but I'll only talk about the lowest brain wave, which is the delta wave. It is naturally producing our third wave of sleep. And that's your real deep sleep where you're dreaming. It nourishes and repairs the body. So you're probably thinking by now, how does this go into the brain and do all that? So Ronald Rudin discovered that the face, the shoulders, and the hands produce the highest delta waves in the body. And all over our skin, but I'll demonstrate with my palm, we have C-tactile fibers. And these transmit electric currents up to the spine and into the brain. And these create neurochemicals. And there are happy neurochemicals when we do the havening. So what are the happy neurochemicals? There, again, we'll have heard of some of them: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, and there is another one called GABA. And what these happy neurochemicals do, they break down those fear or AMPA receptors on that neuron. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard of neuroplasticity. This is what it is. So we can build new neural pathways and kind of change that constant dialogue in our brain. Like, we can change it. We just have to think differently by opening up our new neural pathways. Now, I did a lot of research for this presentation. I went down a few rabbit holes on the way. But one of the things I did learn is that dyslexic neurons are slightly different. So say this is your neuron, and out the back of it, you have a tail, which is called an axon. And the axon transmits information from one neuron to the other. Now, dyslexic neurons are just that little bit longer, just slightly longer. And any of you that are dyslexic, I wonder, have you ever noticed that you daydream now, or you did as a child? I know all my school reports had Andree daydreams, and I used to get really embarrassed about it. But you know what? I'm not embarrassed anymore. And why? Because the reason we're daydreaming is that we're filtering our information along our longer axon, we're processing it, and that allows us to see the bigger picture, which I know we've spoken about many a time here. Can I have the next slide, please, Dee? Mm-hmm. So how does havening work in practice? So you've seen me do the strokes, and I've spoken about the delta waves that calm and relax us. You do it in a relaxed environment that feels safe to the person, and it also can be done content-free. So that means you don't always have to go back to that traumatized situation, so long as you're honest with yourself. And there is also a scale, which I will explain to you next. So once you start your session and you've established what you're going to be talking about, you will be asked to put that phobia, trauma, etc., on a scale of 0 to 10. Now, 10 is really high. It's, you know, it's so distressing. I don't even know what to say. And 0 is nothing. And once you've started, you're then given a series of distractions while you do the havening touch, because the brain can't use working memory and think of something else at the same time. Every few minutes, the practitioner will come back to you to get the score and do more distractions. And obviously the aim is to get the person as low as they can. So as I've said already, we're delinking the feelings from the anxiety, and we're using that score, which is called the SUD scale, which is subjective units of distress. So on the final bit on this slide is, it is a person-centered approach, or havening has a person-centered approach. And that means that the client is always in control. So you don't give them words, they come up with everything themselves. Dee, may I have the next slide, please? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to let you read this slide. There's loads of things havening can do. There's a few things here probably that help us that are neurodivergent. And I'm going to talk about the person that's on the right hand of the screen while you read it. She came to me, this lady, with a fear of heights, and she didn't know why. She just knew she had a fear of heights for about 30 years. So I worked with her, and we got to the end. She got to a 0, and she had disassociated those feelings with the fear of heights. And then she just, oh, by the way, I have asked her for permission to tell her story and the picture. So when she got to the 0, she kind of had this like kind of memory of her falling down the stairs with her baby when she was quite young. So obviously the amygdala went into overdrive, and then she had a fear of heights. The day after the session, she was at Westfield hanging over an escalator, looking down at all the different floors. And this is about 3 or 4 months later when she went to Toronto and got in a glass lift and went to a glass auditorium and walked around. So she really felt the advantages of doing it. Can I have the next slide, please, Dee? So what we're
Hold
going
on, sorry.
to
It's going, it's not moving. Oh, there we go. Sorry, carry on.
Perfect, thank you, Dee.
Mhm.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to relax and get ready to Haven. And I've asked people to go and get a soft blanket, soft cushion. If you have a small animal, call them over now, pop them on your lap, and some hand cream if your hands are dry. And Dee, can you let me know if anybody has left at this stage?
Right. I think one person may, it's hard to tell because people may have just turned their cameras off.
I'm
Oh,
here because I'm eating, but I'm definitely here.
Okay, I think everyone's here then.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
move on to the next one. So please, Dee.
Okay.
So I think at this stage, let people just have a quick look at the pictures. So that's the arm havening by crossing your arms over your shoulders and rubbing downwards. The face ones, you rub down your face. I will show you this on the screen in a moment, and the hand, obviously rubbing the hands. So can we stop the slides while I demonstrate, Dee?
Sure.
Lovely.
Okay. Right.
So there are
Yep.
3 ways to do it. So you can cross your, can everybody see me from the angle my screen is at?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
We
Dee.
can't see all the way down, but we can just see the top of,
Taking
yeah.
off my head a bit,
Okay.
that's okay.
Mhm.
So the arm one, think of giving yourself a hug. So cross your hands over, place them on top of your shoulders and rub downwards. Now, don't rub up and down because that's actually quite irritating, I think, to most people. So just rub down 1 to 2 seconds, but like whatever feels comfortable for you, not very quick, just nice and kind of slowly. And you should feel kind of just something quite relaxing while you do that. Right. Now I'm going to go to the face, and I'm going to take off my glasses a minute. So I'd advise if you are wearing glasses, maybe just to take them off a moment while you're doing the face one. So you place your hands on your forehead and then you rub down your face like this. And part of it is under the cheeks. If you like doing that, do that. If you don't, that's okay too. Or some people like to just rub the whole way down their face. Just find which one works for you. So either that, or all the way down. Right. So now I'm going to move on to the hand one. And the hand one, you place your hands together. You can either intertwine them if you want while you're doing it. The main thing here is that you make sure your palms are covered, are rubbing together while you do it. You can keep your fingers closed. Or I'm demonstrating this so you can lower your hands while you do it. You can rub across ways like that. Right, so we're going to move on to the next slide in a second. But before we do, you can use any of the 3. You can use all 3. You can use 2, whatever is working for you. But before we do move on, those of you who've maybe got a blanket or a cushion, I'm just going to demonstrate that. Again, I have this up high for demonstration purposes. If you pop the pillow or blanket on your lap, and again, I'm going to be using one hand to demonstrate, so you need to use both hands. You need to kind of push forward. If the cushion, this is a velour cushion, I'm going to turn it around, so I'm going against the grain. If you're doing that, go the opposite way with the cushion. There you go. So yeah, with 2 hands, just push forward. And if you have a cat or a dog, you can just stroke their heads, or just, you know how they like to be stroked, so just stroke them while they're sitting on your lap. So can I have the next slide, please, Dee?
Let's go back to share.
Oh, yes, sorry, I was just about to say, start the share again, Dee, please.
Okay, we're just it's going to come up now.
And I'm going to put my glasses back on because I can't see without them. So what we're going to do, we're just going to start to Haven for a second, just to, just make sure you're doing one that you feel comfortable with. And then if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. This is your time out, your session, so do what you want. And I'm going to ask everybody to take 2 deep breaths, and let's start by taking a breath in for 4 and then out for 6. So, okay, in for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And again, in for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now keep havening. And I want you to think of something simple that was niggling you either today or in the last few days. Now, I don't want you to choose anything that's a long-term issue, it goes back. Just something small that bugged you. And in your head, I want you to rate this from 0 to 10. 10 being the highest number, it just totally distresses me, and 0 being nothing at all, it doesn't bother me. Now, I'm hoping nobody's a 10 because that's quite a high one to be doing this on. But anyway, I can talk to you afterwards. Now, clear your mind, keep havening, and I want you to imagine that you are on a beach or in a lovely wooded area on a summer's day. I want you to look around and take in the place that you are in. In a moment, I am going to ask you to start to take 20 steps. And with each step you take, notice your foot touching the ground. So let's begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now continue havening. And I want you to imagine that you're in a place that represents safety and calm to you. Now, this might be a place you've actually visited, a place in nature, or even a room in your house. Alternatively, it might be an imaginary place. It may be one that you visited in a novel or a movie. The important thing here is that it represents safety and calm for you. And once you've chosen your safe place, continue to apply the soothing touch. Allow your imagination to make this place vivid and detailed. Make the colors brighter. Now linger there. What do you see? What do you hear? Can you smell anything? Can you reach out and touch anything? I want you to explore this beautiful, safe and calm place for a few more moments as you haven. Allow the feelings of calmness and safety to deepen throughout your body and mind. Now say to yourself, peaceful, calm and safe. Repeat it again. You might say, I am peaceful, I am calm, I am safe. And I want you to sit with this for a moment and notice what feelings are in your body. Now, I'd like you to name one word that you could use to describe this safe place. And if a word isn't coming to mind, maybe you might have a noise, like a feeling of contentment, like a or you might even have a color or a sound. Now, continue to haven, and I would like you to think of what that score was of that little niggle. On that scale of 0 to 10, I want you to bring up the score. 10 being really, really high and distressing, and 0 being zen-like, nothing at all. So what is your score now? So I would like to invite you to open your eyes. And if you want, you can stop havening. Is there a difference between your first and your last score? And would anybody like to divulge on this? You don't have to explain what it is, and I'll get Dee to pick one person for now. If anybody else wants to talk at the end, we will have questions and light bulb moments, and I'd love to hear all then. So Dee, could you, if anybody is interested in divulging, could you pick someone, Dee?
Can people raise their hands or? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe
Joyce. I've got Joyce. Joyce.
Lovely.
Can you unmute, please, Joyce?
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hi,
Sorry, I was
Joyce.
late. I just came from my therapy session. I put 7 to begin with and 2 afterwards.
That's really, really good.
And the reason being that I was able to, I call it escape to my safe place, and using my senses, so sight, smell, sound and taste. And I just visualize that I'm on the beach in the Caribbean. I can smell the fried fish on the side. And that's my safe place. And if I need to go deeper, then I'm either in the water or on the hot sand.
Sounds delightful, Joyce. And it actually does work, doesn't it? It kind of just calms you down and puts you in that nice kind of safe place where you feel nothing can bother you.
Yeah, that's correct. Sorry, I don't know how to lower my hand. Can someone do that?
I think it'll go off eventually. I don't think I can do it
No.
from here, but don't worry. Oh,
But-
yeah, I think I've done it. I think yeah, it's gone. Yeah, okay.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you for sharing that. It's just good to hear how it reacts with different people. Some people can go back up if they haven't, if they've thought of something else while they've been doing their havening, but that was great to hear that you've actually gone back down. So thank you. Thank you very much for sharing. I'm just going back to the presentation, Dee, bear with me a second.
Mhm.
So yeah, can I have the next slide, please, Dee?
Mhm.
So a recap, what is the havening technique? It's a technique to soothe and, self-soothe and create a safe and calm mind through a series of strokes. How it works, it delinks the negative feelings from the negative memories that stress you. How do you use it? You can self-haven like I've taught you today, face, shoulders, hands. Alternatively, as I've shown you as well, you can use a cushion or a blanket or a pet. And if you're in therapy, you can use a virtual world. When to use it as much as you want. I would use it when you do feel your brain is going into those loops and cycles of anxiety and negative thoughts. Obviously, if there are deeper set issues, you can then go to a practitioner. But anybody who uses affirmations, it's a great way to do your affirmations. We actually have a thing called affirmational havening as part of one of the parts of the therapy. And another way to use it, which I actually love doing, is to your favorite songs. You can do it in the morning before you leave for work, or you can do it on the tube or on the bus, and actually just kind of cheers you up for the day. So can I have the next slide, please, Dee? We're nearly there, everybody. So these are just a few links and videos. I've heard people saying here in the talks that they find it hard to sleep. This lady, Kate Truitt, does a few sleeping ones. This is quite good. She also does other ones for stress. There's a 5-minute one. This lady, Karina, if you only have a minute a day, just use her one. Paul McKenna does one for confidence. And then the last one is Robert Youngson. He lives in New Zealand and he has a beautiful stream in the background and all the birds that you hear, the native birds in New Zealand. It's actually quite a nice one if you like nature. So Dee, can I have the next slide, please? So this one we can't get to play, guys, sorry. But Dee will put it in the chat. It's little baby Renzo. I just want you to look at his reactions to having his face stroked. They're actually quite funny. So can I have the next slide, please, Dee?
Sure. I just put it in the chat. I put it in
sorry.
the chat again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So hold on a sec.
So that's the end of the presentation. I'm just wondering, does anybody have any light bulb moments from it? Any questions they'd like to ask?
I saw something from Joyce earlier. Do you want to mention something again about what you said earlier, Joyce?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I have difficulty memory and processing. Can you just say what it is?
Okay, that's fine.
Thanks.
Yeah. So you said earlier, I think when you were talking about the science bit, Andree, Joyce said, is that what they call the reptile? Because it from when we were hunters, hunter-gatherers, sorry, and prey species, we were a herd. Sorry, I don't know if I've said
I
that
haven't worded
correctly.
it very well. I can't say the word. It's like what they call it. I think they call it our reptilian brain. So it goes back to our ancestry when we were prey species and hunter gatherers, and so we had that fear and flight kind of thing. So that stayed with us for a long time. That's what we still have now. I think I was trying to say. Sorry.
Yeah, it's so true. It actually keeps us alive. If we didn't have it, we'd be dead. So that part of the brain is vital to us, and we can't escape not having stress in our life because it is there. But why I did this was just to give people something to work with on a daily basis if they felt stressed. But you're right with the science part of it. Yes, that is our reptilian part of the brain. And I've just see the brain in itself, you're always learning new things about it. But I just saw somebody say today, we need that part of our brain. We can't be 100% stress-free. So yeah, if we have to survive, stay alive. So that's the little amygdala keeping us alive. Does that make sense? Sorry, Joyce.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce.
Okay, we're here for the Q&A and discussion. I'm just reminding people that the recording, it was agreed with the advocates that I should remind when we get to the discussion stage that people are aware of recording in case you share sensitive information. Okay. So, Dee, do you want to facilitate the Q&A for Andree?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, has anybody, sorry, I have stopped the share already. 'Cause I wanted to see you more clearly, Andree, as you're talking. So yeah, if anybody else has got any questions,
Put everybody asleep, Dee, by doing that bit of a meditation. Yes.
But in a good way,
That's fine. It's worked. My job is done.
Actually, I just to kick things off, I was feeling a bit nervous about doing being the advocate, helping out and everything. And even though that wasn't completely the reason for the havening or what I was thinking about as what I wanted to use as my reason for havening, it had calmed me down a bit more, just, doing the strokes and everything. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think we've got a few questions and I see Becky's hand up. And then we've got Rose in the chat as well. Becky, do you want to go ahead, please?
Yeah, that's great. Thought that was absolutely brilliant. Yep, did great, I've got to say. And I thought that what you said at the beginning was really interesting as well, over the fact that it's so true. Nobody ever taught, there's a lot of talk about we have to look after as mental health, but nobody actually tells you how to do it, do they? It's banded everywhere. You must take care, But where are the tools to take care? You still it's like, well, just crack on and get on with it. So I thought that was really good. And then the relaxing stuff. I went from a 5 to a 2. I had to think what had stressed me. It took me ages all the way through thinking, what took me off today? And then I found something. And then I was like, oh, actually, now I'm in my happy place, which turns out to be in the bed watching TV with a cup of tea and some chocolate.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. I'd gone from a 5 to a 1 or a 2. So yeah, I thought that was great. And then I started to feel so relaxed. I thought, oh, I must remember I'm still on a team talk. Don't fall asleep.
fall asleep.
So yeah, that was my contribution. I thought brilliant, really, really good. And I'm going to text them, and I took some photos of your screen. So yeah, really
Oh,
good.
thank you, Becky. Thank you very much. And I'm glad it's worked.
It definitely has.
Thank you.
Great. Rose, should I read your question out, or do you want to ask it?
Sure thing. You go ahead, Dee.
Oh, okay. How much do you use it in your own life these days, and how often are you working in your havening service? And I think that's, so before you answer, that's really good, because you did have in our practice, you had a great example of when you used it, and I hope, you might use that now, maybe.
I was going to use it when I thought at the end people had gone away to get things, but not many people went away, and then we were sharing the screen, so I dropped it. But yeah, so Rose, great question. I actually try and use it every day. One of the things I do in the morning while I'm having my breakfast, I put on one of those Kate Truitt videos, and I just kind of do about 5 minutes of it. I do use it if I feel myself in the middle of the day getting quite anxious about things. And I have an example, as Dee was saying. I do a part-time receptionist job, and I'd only started in the job a few weeks. It was kind of towards the end of COVID. So obviously they wanted the building to be back in shipshape order. And at one stage I had 15 male contractors in front of me going, can I have keys? Where's this? Where's that? This isn't working. Why can't I sign in? And I just was standing there going, oh my God, I just feel so overwhelmed. Now there's over 100 odd keys in this building, and the Excel sheet, but I used to just go, I don't even know where to start here. So in the heat of the moment, I went, right, just one moment, please. I have to think about something. So the hand havening, which is really, really handy. Nobody knows you're doing it. I just went to myself, what do I want now? I want to be calm. So I just rubbed my hands and quietly, they couldn't hear me. I just said in my own head, calm, 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 calm. I went, right, you're going to have to wait for your keys. You gents stand over there. That's upstairs to the right. And there's your keys. So it just really brought me down in the heat of the moment. I felt so overwhelmed on the day. And when you're new in a job as well, you're a bit like, oh. So, do I work in the havening service? Yes. You have to become a qualified practitioner to do it. It takes about a year. You have to do 30 case studies. So I'm doing it with people, but I'm setting up my website and doing all that at the moment. It's still a work in progress because I still work 3.5 days a week. So yes, I am doing it with people, but I'm not fully set up yet, Rose. Nearly there. Did that answer your question, Rose?
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Alicia's got her hand up. Yes, Dee, you're doing a wonderful job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and also I do like the practical and the ethereal part of this session, and I find that I went on a journey on it.
Oh.
Yeah, and I like the information about the 30 years since they've not developed a depression drug.
Yeah.
And it's for me, I find that it's perfect timing, and I do believe in alternative wholeheartedly, and that we know what we need. It's just us trying to voice it, bringing that out. And I find that it was light, the theory, so it took, I found that it wasn't too heavy in a therapy session. And also your voice is very calming.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, and just how you are. And what I actually, on the practical part, I actually, when I go on holiday, I always think of a place where, whether it's the sunset or I'm in the beach, I always say to myself, I'm going to remember this for whenever I'm stressed. So it took me straight there.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and usually I will struggle with that, but I actually went straight there. So I find it really good. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Even if you can just use it on a daily basis or whenever you feel that stress coming up, give it a go, see how it goes. Okay, not one tool fits everybody.
Yeah.
Have more than one thing in your toolbox, as I would call it. But yeah, give it a go, see how it goes. And I just think if it can help one person tonight, then I've done something. It's, I know us being neurodivergent, I know from me personally in the background, I feel like the hamster on the treadmill a lot of the time. And that's why I always wanted something just to bring me down a level or two. I just found I used to be up here. And since I've started doing this, even my husband has noticed a big change in me, especially now that I don't faint and end up getting ambulances called for me in the middle of lockdown and things like that. So, but yeah, he notices me and myself, because even doing this presentation was quite a struggle for me because I've not worked with computers until the last 5 or 6 years. I only learned how to do PowerPoint and all that in the last 6 years. So doing this is something I haven't really done much before. I've done one other presentation, but normally I would get really stressed and anxious. And he was like, no, you're doing really well. And I stay calm. And I use the havening to do that. So that's what works for me. And I think, yeah, take it away. Please use it, Joyce, please.
Right. So we've got a comment from Joyce, and then Adrian wants to ask a question, and then we've got a few more comments as well. So Joyce has said people experience trauma as part of the trauma-informed collaborative with Medical Health Trust. This is being used for both patients and staff to improve health well-being.
Yeah, sorry, I missed the beginning. I was meant to say I.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. Thank you.
So are you saying it's part of, sorry, so people have experienced trauma as part of the trauma-informed collaborative with the Medical Health Trust?
No, sorry, that's my writing. I'm so bad when I try to write. What I'm trying to say is I'm a so-called patient by experience with a Medical Health Trust. And I'm a part of the trauma informed collaborative. And we were recently had in a presentation a part of the ARDSA, something that rubbish things about that particular aspect is violence against women and harm against women. And havening was kind of mentioned there as well. And like you say, we're not taught. So when you have things that go through to maybe people's childhood or whatever, we're not taught these techniques of being calm and being relaxed. But yet you've managed to bring all these things you're taught through different therapies like yoga, the hugging one, and the breath work. You've kind of put it all in a nutshell, really neat and concise today. And even the complex of the brain and how that works in the neurons and the amygdala, whatever, I can't say it. But you know
I struggle with that as well, don't worry.
And you've put it all in a nutshell and you've done it practically so that not only can we help ourselves as people who are neurodiverse, but it was really, really brilliant. So thank you so much. And also how to utilize it in action. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Joyce. That's really interesting what you do there as well. If you could bring it into the NHS, if you could bring it into other parts of, I suppose, the medical world, there have been scientific cases done on it, but doctors are still very slow to do alternative treatments. Could you imagine if this could help people, if you bring it to the NHS and say, I will do this with people, it would save people getting medication and going down that whole route. Now, medication does help people, but you can give them something else to work with at the same time. So
they've just started it. So we've been banging on for this for 20 years, and it's really, really great to see that they're just starting it. And I was at the meeting, I think it was Tuesday, and then you brought it in today. So brilliant, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you, Joyce. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll move on to Adrian's question now. How much does it cost to train, and can you do it online? Is that it, Adrian?
Yes. Do you want me to talk out loud? Sorry. Yeah, Adrian, from memory, I think it cost about £1,500, but you do it in 2 separate chunks. First, you start off by, You either attend a 2-day course or they do it online, I think a lot now since COVID. And that's all the science. And the science is, at the beginning, you're a bit sitting there going, that's gone over my head. But once you start kind of looking at it over and over again, that starts sinking in. You have a test then, which I think was about 100 questions, and they're really scientifically based. It's all based on what you've learned, but there's a primer which Ronald Rudin has read. It's a bit like the Bible to it all, and the answers are in that. You're obviously also taught how to train and the different aspects of havening. There's different parts, like as I've said, there's affirmational, informational, there's I've gone brain dead. Event havening is what you start off with. So most people will have an event of something that's happened, and then you work them down to a 3, and you keep trying to go with the event havening. But if there's a blockage, then you'll go on to different types of havening to help that person move. And you learn all of those and that part of the training. Trying to think, the second part then is for your qualification, and that is you'll have to do your 30 case studies, and then you have to do 2 videos on top of that as well, which go back to the Rudin brothers. So it's corrected correctly. And then once you do that, you also have to pay, I think, £100 a year to be part of the havening practitioner group. And then once you've done that, you're qualified. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, my concern is because I no longer live in the British Isles, what I could apply.
They're all over the world. And actually, because they do it a lot online, I can give you some people's details if you want, Adrian. The people who do it here in the UK actually go to Spain as well, but I think they've started doing it online. I'll have to double check. A lot of people now do it online because you can teach anything on an online
Right.
Zoom.
I'm in Portugal and I prefer to do things which are not just all day talking English, frankly.
Yeah. Okay. I will see if there's any Portuguese trainers.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I can check that all out for you. Just bear with me a minute. Just actually don't have a pen and paper, but I will chase that up for you. Would I be able to get your contacts somehow, or
yeah, they've got them.
Your email is probably on this list. Yeah,
and all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll email. I'll do a bit of research. I'll find out for you, Adrian, and I will send that on to you. No
Okay.
problem.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. So, thanks, Adrian. So Rose and Joyce, got some comments as well. Want to go ahead, Rose? And I see
No, I'm
Catherine's-
happy for you to read them, Dee.
Okay, fine. That's great. So you've said, yes, thanks for a lovely, clear, super professionally presented talk, Andree. You look and sound in your element. Hope you'll do more as promotion for your business.
Thank you, Rose. I was actually quite concerned. I'd look quite nervous doing it. I did a bit of havening before I started. But no, thank you. It's really, everybody, thank you for your kind comments, because I've never done many presentations, or haven't done them, and was quite unsure as to how I'd come across in the presentation. So you've really given me some really nice messages here. Thank you.
And Joyce has said, havening seems to draw a lot of elements from alternative and complementary therapies. In a nutshell, it was brilliant. Thank you, and accessible. Joyce again, I'm sorry, Rose again. Is anyone else getting loud crackling interference? Oh, sorry, it may be my speaker. I think it might be Rose. Sorry, I think everything's clear from this end. And then you've got a host of people, Andree, Alicia. No, everybody's talking about the crackling. And yeah, Alicia's got another question here. Alicia, do you want to ask your question, or should I just ask it for you?
Yeah, you can ask it.
Okay. How do you get your case studies, or yeah?
Well, that actually is the hard bit, Alicia. So you have to start asking friends and family. And Dee was very kind. She did one for me. But yeah, you basically have to try and, encourage friends and family to do it with you. You can do 1 or 2 with other practitioners that are training or with people who've already qualified, but you're not allowed to do too many with the practitioners, obviously. So 30 people is quite a lot of people to try and round up. And I was doing it last year. I had a lot going on at the same time. So I think I got it done by October, and I started the end of September the year before. So I was just kind of at the end of my deadline. But yeah, it's, you know, people kind of sometimes look at you when you try and explain it and they go, what is that? So I think a year on, I've actually got the explanation a lot better than I had when I first trained, because there's so much information, you're trying to relay it to someone that they just sit there and they go, oh, I'm not sure about this. They think it's some kind of hocus pocus type thing. But yeah, it takes a while to do the 30, but I think it's well worth it, because what you do learn about these things, nothing is straightforward. So you start learning, and I think that's why they make you do 30 case studies, because anything can come up, and sometimes people won't always tell you the truth as well. So then you're trying to ask them, is there something else? And eventually people do tell you, but you can tell, you've been taught their reactions through body language. Not body language isn't the right word, but reactions in the body. So you'll know sometimes people won't always divulge everything to you. You still have to try and work with them. So yeah.
Right. I noticed Catherine's got her hand up.
Okay, hi. I was really interested in the longer neurons, Andree, and where did you find that information?
I'll try and go back and find the information. It was an American website for dyslexia.
Okay.
And I'll try and find it and send it on to you. But it was there. One day I was just Googling about, you know, different things for dyslexia, and it came up, and I thought, oh, I didn't know this. But I remember you saying it was that you had thought it was the grey matter in the brain.
Yeah, there is some research about this, but it's another narrative where they're talking about the grey matter columns in the brain, and that they're wider for dyslexic people and narrower for autistic people and closer together for autistic people. So it kind of links up with your longer neurons, actually.
Yeah. I will find that bit of information, and I'll try and send it back to you there this evening or tomorrow. But yeah, I just remember seeing it and thinking, oh, that's quite interesting. I also learned about people that have ADHD. They produce less dopamine. So if you do the havening, okay, you probably will need medication. Some people do, and I'm not adverse to that. But if you use the havening on a daily basis, you're creating your own dopamine as well by doing that. So,
that's right. No, I think somebody said it was, I think it was Lucia, that it, you know, your talk has been really good because you've linked up the theory and the practice as well. So, you know, there's a contextual side to this as well.
I felt I had to really make it link for people to understand it, because the science actually can go a lot deeper than I've explained. But in order for people to understand why this is doing this, you know, that's what I couldn't explain in the early days. And I had to do a lot more research. Just as I qualified, I needed to know the science more. And lovely lady who's up in Scotland, I used to send her voice messages. She actually happens to be neurodiverse as well. She's dyslexic. And I would send her a message and say, but how does this work? And then she'd send me back a message and I'd write it down. So it was actually much easier because there's a text group. And although I enjoy it, but it's always going and it's just too much for my brain. And then I couldn't understand everything they were talking about. So that's the other side of it, Adrian, if you're interested. Everybody is so helpful in the Havening community. You can contact anybody from one of the brothers right down to anybody, and they'll always help you with information or if you need advice on anything. So yeah, a bit like here, you feel like you have a tribe, you know, and I think that's vital when you're doing something.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound a bit like, to me, like stimming.
Stimming,
stimming. It's like when you go to like an autistic people's event, it'd be like there'd be a stimming space and things like that where people can flap happily and whatever. And so I used to flap quite a bit and things like that, and it was stress relief in part, dealing with stress and stressful thoughts. And so this is a way of kind of doing that without it being so obvious.
Yep.
It really strikes, and then a lot without alarming other people,
And it's the other way you can do it, which I suppose maybe just be careful where you're doing it. I work with people who've had strokes as well on one of my days. And some people lose the use of a limb. So you can get the person just to rub their leg. I know that sounds a bit weird, maybe if you're a man out doing something, or if you're going to sleep at night, or you're just sitting somewhere. Do you see what I'm doing here, Adrian? Just stroking your shoulder like that. You could have a pain shoulder. Nobody really.
Well, I had a TBI, a 1 month old skull fracture, and that's almost certainly the cause of my neurodivergence because it tested negative genetically. So therefore, because I'm also involved with brain injury survivors groups, and there's something like the Silver Lining Charity. There's an awful lot of good things online, so it'd be good to have you talk to them.
I'd love to. I'm always interested in hearing groups like Joyce's group here, because I just think if you can help people, I don't mind coming out and doing talks and helping people, because it just needs to be spread around for people to help themselves, in their moment of feeling stressed. Just anything that's going to calm people down is, I think, vital in this day and age. We're going through so many stresses in everyday life.
Yeah, I mean, I used to, when I was living near Hammersmith, I used to find it, when they had the things at the Hammersmith Irish Centre, and doing all this kind of like rhythmic music and things like that, and tapping into it was very helpful.
You could listen to the music and haven along.
Well, you kind of are, because you're tapping along with your feet and everything. And that's like a collective.
Another way of doing it.
Havening seems to be going on when I think about it. At one level, along with all the fiddling and drums.
Yeah, you can do it to anything, and also, have you ever had a friend and you've gone, you put your hand on their shoulder to say, I'm so sorry. Again, we do it naturally, don't we? We kind of stroke ourselves in these areas.
Or give someone a hug when they're distressed. Yeah.
It's instinctive and it's part of who we are. So it can be used, and it can be used discreetly, so use it. That's what it's there for. But yeah, keep me LinkedIn. I'll send you on that bit of information, but I'd love to hear about, did you say it was the Silver Lining Charity?
Yeah. And it's actually the CEO of it is a dyslexic woman who's late diagnosis, who is a neuropsychologist.
Oh, really interesting.
Yeah, American, in Florida.
Okay, well, I'd love to learn a bit more about it. So when I email you, maybe we could.
Yeah. So so she does kind of get and promote neurodiversity, and it's well understood within acquired neurodiversity, etc. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Can I? Sorry, Andree, I cut you off there, but Joyce has had her hand up for quite a while, and I just wanted to say as well, Andrew said, great presentation and sounds like a great concept. NA has said, very well presented, thank you. And yes, Joyce, would you like to ask your question or say?
It was because I missed the beginning because I just come therapy session, but I wanted to find out, because like for some people touch is really difficult, and also I was thinking about young people as well, and so I was thinking about intervention, and by self-soothing and being able to self-care for one another, for an individual, it would be such a brilliant tool. But I wondered whether that there is any particular, like for people who suffer trauma, or maybe who can't bear touch for any reason, or for people who aren't able to associate. I know you said there's different forms of
Yeah.
havening, that might be more suitable. It's just I was throwing out there. I was asking. Thank you.
It's really good.
Was that clear?
Yeah, very, very clear. This is something that's discussed a lot, obviously, within the havening community. And one of the things that we do is it's called mirror havening. So I could sit here in haven and you can just watch me. And they've done research in this. You pick up the delta waves from just watching the other person actually do it. Again, if I don't know, with touch, it depends on the touch. If it's on them, like we could do what we did here, use a cushion, an animal, you know, again, that animals are great. If you think of rubbing a dog or cat, if you like them, you'll feel, you know, the sensation is always quite good. But if the person has that extreme, you know, not sensitivity, but obviously that trauma that's, I suppose, been quite deep, then they can just sit there and watch you haven, and you can, you're facilitating with them, and they're picking up the delta waves through you. Does that make sense?
And that's brilliant. And I don't know whether you have or you've thought about going into schools and be able to teach it from a young age as well.
I would love to do that, but I'm just not even knowing, it's not even knowing how, where do you start with that? How do you go to schools and say, this is what I'd like to do? Do you think it would be accepted?
Look at massage in schools, Andree, because there's a whole movement of massage in schools. So you can look at how they do their set up their business and suggest something similar.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
It's obviously going to be different somehow.
Yeah, it's slightly different, I suppose, but yeah, I think it's trying to engage people to understand, first of all, what it is, because if you think, are you talking about me setting up my business, Rose? Well,
it depends whether you'd want to or not, but you know, even to just do one school at a time and see, but just look at their websites, the whole big, well, there used to be a big organization of massage in schools where they go and teach kids massage techniques. Yeah,
okay.
You might just get some ideas from it, is all I'm suggesting.
Yeah, no, great idea. I didn't actually realize they did that.
Yeah. I don't know if it still exists, but it used to be quite a healthy organization.
I know I have gone to, like, okay, we're going from one extreme to the other, from kids to like care homes, and I went to a few and they were like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And I said, I'll come in and do a demonstration. And then they never contacted me again. So it was like, okay, I know you probably have to knock on about 100 doors before you'll get one person when it comes to things like that.
Especially schools. The teachers just so busy that you have to keep at them.
And care homes, yeah. I think we're coming to an end now, and I want to just add to everybody else's thoughts that it's been a brilliant talk, Andree. So confident, and you've just pulled it off really amazingly, brilliantly, and I think you've got to feel really proud of yourself for what you've done, and thank you. Can everybody just give Andree a round of applause?
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Thanks for all your support and the questions tonight. I was kind of thinking, oh, will anybody ask a question? So it was nice to get all the comments and questions. I really do appreciate it.
Well,
you're welcome.
Andree, and a big thanks.
You're a natural.
Oh, thank you.
And if you look in the chat, you'll see when the next speaker is. It's Melanie Jameson. She's quite well known in the criminal justice sector for working with neurodivergent people who need support in court. She is really expert in her field. It's rare, but she is neurotypical. She's not a neurodivergent person, but she's like one of us. And she's going to be here on Wednesday, the 28th of June at 7 p.m. And she is going to be really interesting. And I just want to thank everybody for being here. I'm going to turn the